Hi guys, it's Mrs. Ross. This is lesson 1.7, so this is your homework for Friday. Hope you guys are doing well. This actually should be a pretty easy lesson. It should be a review for a lot of people, but I definitely want you to watch through the video just to make sure that we're all on the same page. So the last lesson that we're going to learn in geometry is about the perimeter, circumference, and area formulas. So these should all feel pretty familiar to you. We're going to talk about finding the perimeter and the circumference, which are the same thing, but circumference just applies to circles. And we're going to talk about finding the area of common shapes. So these are the square, the triangle, and the rectangle. They're polygons, and then we've got a circle, which is a little bit different from that. So remember, think back, think about what perimeter means. Perimeter means what happens if I go around the outside of a figure. So if I need to build a fence around my yard, or let's see, I want to wrap my cake with gold beads, and I want to do that around the outside. That would be perimeter, or in the case of a circular cake, that would be the circumference. Circumference is just what we use to describe the perimeter in a circle. And then we also have area, and area is in a two-dimensional shape how much it would take to cover the area, so the surface area of a particular shape. So your fence would be the perimeter, and then if you wanted to cover the yard with grass seed, that would be the area of your yard. Same with your cake. If you wanted to have a circular cake, a round cake, and you wanted to wrap, let's say, a ribbon around the outside, that would be their circumference. And then you wanted to know how much icing it would require to cover the top of your cake, that would be the area. So just to kind of review what those terms are, and then we're going to talk about what the formulas are, just to make sure that we're all on the same page. So if you have your notes, you have this in front of you. So just to kind of review for everybody, this is a square. A square has 4 congruent sides and 4 congruent angles. And if we want to find the perimeter, we're going to add side plus side plus side plus side. Or another way that we could say that is 4s, because we've got 4 sides, and they're all the same in a square. So that's pretty easy for us, right? Now the area of a square is the length times the width. And since each of our sides is s, they're all congruent to each other, the area is going to be side squared. Okay, so pretty straightforward, I think. All right, so that's a square. Again, perimeter, outside. The area is going to be filling in the area created by that square. All right, so let's talk about rectangle. So just to remind the perimeter of a rectangle, so it's going to be, before I start writing, got a little too excited there. In a rectangle, we have 2 different measurements, right? We have the width and we have the length. So a perimeter is going to be a width plus a length plus a width plus a length. And another way we can say that is 2 times the width plus 2 times the length. Right? So that should be kind of familiar to you, or width plus length plus width plus length, right? All right, and then we've got the area of a rectangle, and the area is going to be our length times our width. So that's how much it's going to take to cover this in. All right, so our length times our width. So hopefully there's a review for you, but just kind of a good practice to have. All right, is our friend Mr. Triangle down here. Triangle, you have to think about it a little bit. So perimeter is what is the distance it's going to take to walk around the outside of my triangle? So if I'm going to go around the outside of my triangle, I have sides A, B, and C. So the perimeter is going to just be A plus B, C. All right, so that's the outside. And then to find the area of a triangle, we actually need the height, which is, we're going to learn later, it's called the altitude. So the height is at 90 degrees with the base. So the area of a triangle is actually 1/2 base times height. So you'll notice the perimeter of a triangle and the area of the triangle, we're using different terms. We don't use these 2 sides when we're finding the area, and we don't use Yes, we don't use those two sides when we're finding the area, and we don't use the height when we're finding the perimeter. Okay? All right, so last up is our friend the circle, so always good to review that. The circle is all dependent on the radius, which is the distance from the center to the outside, and this radius is the same all the way around, right? So to find circumference, which is the same as like the perimeter, to find the distance it takes to go around the outside of the circle, we're going to use the formula 2 pi times radius. Or you may have learned it's pi times the diameter, which is d. Those are both the same thing, right? The diameter is just double the radius. So we got that. And then the area is also based off the radius, but it's a little bit different. It is pi times the radius squared. So hopefully those are all review for you. Oh, and just here it mentions pi is the ratio of the circle's circumference to its diameter. So it's actually a measurement. We can do a cool experiment with that on how you find pi. So hopefully those are a review for you guys. We're just going to practice doing some different problems using all of these formulas. You should be really confident in finding perimeter and area for all of the plane shapes that are shown, because those will show up in geometry. So this is just good practice to make sure that we're all on the same page. So let's do a couple practice problems. I'm going to do them. If you want to, you can, well, I'd like you to do them along with me. You can always pause the video, like we're going to do example number 1. You can pause it now, try it out, and then see what we get. So example number 1 says, find the perimeter and area of this rectangle. So we're going to use the formulas for perimeter and area. So remember, perimeter equals 2 times the length plus 2 times the width, right? And in here, we know that the width is 8 and the length is 13. So to find the perimeter, we're going to do 2 times 8 plus 2 times 13. Okay, sorry for the crazy writing. So that's going to be 16 plus 26. And I'm going to add those together, and I'm going to get 42 meters, right? Notice we didn't multiply anything. If I would put my units in here, this is just 8 meters and 13 meters. So we're not squaring anything. This is just 42 meters. That's what it's going to take if I'm going to walk around the outside of my rectangle. Okay. And then for area, remember area is length times width. So the length is 13 meters, right? The width is 8 meters. And if I multiply those together, oh, I don't have a calculator in front of me. I'm going to pull up my calculator. I don't know if this is going to work for you guys, but if not, I just pulled up a calculator. Sorry if it's closing your screen or not. Let's see, 13 times 8 is, I could have done that off to the side, 104. Okay, so the area is 104. Now meters times meters, so the area is actually 104 meters squared. Because I have meters times meters, sorry, that was like 164. It's just 104 meters squared. Okay. So that's how we would find the perimeter and area. It's pretty much just plugging in the formulas, right? If I wanted to find, let's try 2 more. So let's try number 2 down here, which this is a triangle. So it says find the area and the perimeter or circumference of the figure. Use 3.14 as approximation for pi. So one thing that I do want to mention is sometimes if you're checking your answers for circumference and area of a circle, you might be off for a little bit. That depends if you're using the pi button or you're using 3.14. Okay, so really quickly, let's just check on the triangle. If we wanted to find the perimeter of the triangle, that's walking around the outside, right? It's 15 plus 20 plus 25. Okay, so if I add those together, I will get 60 inches. Sorry for the crazy writing again. 60 inches, right? It's not squared because we're just adding lengths together. 15 plus 20 plus 25. We're just adding all of those lengths that are around the outside together. So it's just going to be inches for our units. right? And then if I switch to the area of a triangle, this one's a little bit unique. So the area is 1/2 the base times the height. So this can kind of confuse some people sometimes. So in this particular diagram, this is actually a right triangle. So if I consider 20 to be my base, then the height is whatever altitude is at 90 degrees. So the height is actually 15 inches in this case. So the height is actually 15 inches because it's at 90 degrees to the base. So in some triangles that are right triangles, the side lengths are the height, and other triangles like the example back here, let me just scroll over here. In this example, this isn't not a right triangle. So the height is the altitude that's at 90 degrees to the base. So that's how you kind of know the two. All right, so let's finish this one up. So we've got 1/2 base times height. So we've got 1/2 20 times 15. Okay. So if I multiply that out, I'm going to get 150 inches squared because I have 20 times 15. So that's inches times inches, which will give me inches squared. All right. Last up, I do want to practice a circle. So you can see this circle. Now, how this is drawn, we've got 22 centimeters. So think about, what do you think 22 centimeters means? Do you think that's the diameter or the radius? So in this case, 22 centimeters is actually the diameter because they have this line drawn all the way across. Okay. And the radius is half of that. So if I want to use the radius is just 11 centimeters. So when you've got that line all the way across, that stands for diameter. The radius is just going to be indicated by a line from the center to the outside of the circle. See the difference between those two? All right, so we're going to find the circumference. Remember, that's what we call the perimeter of a circle. We call it the circumference. So the circumference is actually 2 times pi times the radius, or 2 times pi times 11. Okay, and they specifically told us to use 3.14 to approximate pi, so we're going to use that. So it's going to be 2 times 11 times 3.14, and we get 69.08. 69.0. Okay, is this centimeters or centimeters squared? It's just centimeters because the only thing that has a unit of centimeters is 11. So that's the only thing that's influencing that, right? Okay, and then we have area, and remember is pi times the radius squared. So it's going to be pi times 11 centimeters squared. Okay, so you're going to use your calculator for this, right? You're going to do 11 squared, which is 121. Multiply that by 3.14, and you end up with 379.94. 379.94. What are the units on the area? Well, it's centimeters times centimeters, so it's centimeters squared. Right? So now if you look back and you look at the pattern, all of the perimeters, all right, the perimeter up here had a unit of meters, perimeter here had a unit of inches. The circumference, which is like the perimeter of a circle, had a unit of centimeters. So notice, whenever you're just talking about the outside, you're only going to have a single unit because you're just talking about walking around the outside, right? If you think about area has units of meters squared because you're talking about the shaded in part. So you're talking about the whole covering, right? Again, with your triangle, inches squared, and your circle, centimeters squared. Okay, so that's how you can think about the units inside the formula or outside of the formula. I think I said that was the last example, but I think there might be one more. Oh yeah, this is just a good kind of little bit different way to think about the same problem. So last problem really is, it says the base of the triangle is 24 feet. Its area is 216 square feet. Find the height of the triangle. Okay, so we know the area formula for the triangle. The area equals 1/2 base times height. They've drawn a nice diagram for us right here, right? And we know the area is 216 square feet. So we can write that like this, right? So the area equals 1/2 the base. Well, we know the base, right? 24 feet times the height. And that's what we're trying to figure out. So we can have a pretty standard algebra problem here. You'll see you've got feet squared and feet. So you're actually going to cross off one of the feet from both sides. If you want to put it that way, you're going to be left over with the height and feet, which is good. And we have 216 feet equals 12 times h. So I just need to divide both sides by 12. And I find out that the height is 216 divided by 12. 18. So the height is 18 feet. Does that seem reasonable? Yeah, pretty reasonable, right? All right, guys. So that's all I wanted to pop on and tell you guys about. Your homework for this is on Tuesday. So if you want to go ahead and get working on it, you can probably knock that out pretty quickly. And we'll be back on Wednesday, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. Have a great weekend, guys. Bye.